Hello, this is Father Hightower, and welcome to Vox SFX, the voice of St. Francis Xavier Parish in Missoula, Montana. We are so pleased that you have joined us. Your participation enriches our entire community. We hope that our show serves as a point of light, helping to deepen our understanding and experience of the Catholic faith in history. So join us as we seek through prayer, study, interviews, and discussion the roots of the practice of our faith. God bless.
Hello, and welcome to Vox SFX, the voice of St. Francis Xavier Parish in Missoula, Montana. We're so pleased you could be with us today. For our episode today, we're continuing our conversation with Father Cochran about the virtues. And we'll be covering the last four that we didn't cover in the previous episode. These virtues are important to our understanding of morality within Catholicism. They are an easy go-to guide, a list, if you will, much like the 7 deadly sins, where we can cleanly understand where the boundaries are and where our expectations are. I've got exciting news before we get into the episode. At the end of this week, at the time of recording, I'm going to be headed to the Eucharistic Congress in Helena, Montana. I'm going to be able to bring my little handheld recording equipment, so the sound quality won't be as good coming from there, but you'll get to hear some of the stories, the testimonies of the people who are attending, and also a few words from the presenters, the ones I'm able to run down with my microphone anyways. So I look forward to sharing that with all of you and hopefully deepening our own understanding together. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this latter half of the virtues with Father Paul Cochran.
If you've been listening to God for a while and feel He may be calling you to a deeper relationship, you're not alone. On a daily basis and across the world, Jesus is inviting people just like you to follow Him. So where does one begin? Many people are finding answers and a profound sense of belonging in the Catholic Church. Whether you're new to Catholicism or have been away for a while, you are always welcome home. Begin renewing your relationship with God by attending Mass and learning more about the Catholic faith. We encourage you to accept Christ's invitation and begin your faith journey today at St. Francis Xavier Parish or your local Catholic church.
Well, we all know that we have a lot to be thankful for when it comes to the love and the grace of God. So let's maybe move on to our next one, which is gratitude.
Mm-hmm. There's a poet, and I'm missing her name at the moment, a writer. In one of her poems or one of her writings is about how gratitude is one of the greatest prayers. And I've often mentioned this to people in the sacrament of reconciliation when they might talk about, I'm not praying enough. And I say to them, find one thing that you're grateful for each day. It's very similar to the Ignatian examen. The purpose of the examen is to see where, with your eyes and the eyes of the Spirit, where God has blessed you that day. A spirit of gratitude. It could be a flower pushing up between the cracks in a concrete. It could be the laughter of a child. It could be the hug of a friend or a spouse. The taste of your favorite food. Solving the quadratic equation. There's a lot of things that, because gratitude is saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's basically saying that there was a lack, there was a problem, there was a need, and it became fulfilled. It became solved. And then it moves what we might call the heart or the emotions to a sense of, wow. And it also says that gratitude is that, say again, looking outward. that I'm not looking to myself to make me happy all the time. Sometimes, you tell yourself a joke and you laugh. But gratitude is both receiving and giving. Gratitude for, maybe someone has given you a gift, a phone call out of the blue, a gift, on your birthday, your favorite meal, a hug, a walk around the block with your favorite person, something like that, as well as your ability to do something for the other.
Those examples that you just gave when you were talking about gratitude, they seem like smaller things. It's not like having gratitude for $1 million check being dropped in your lap or for suddenly becoming king of the world. It's like you said, it's a kind word from someone. It's something small. In this way, is it more like gratitude is a state of mind, a state of being, and not just a singular activity?
It's a quality of life, being grateful for the daily things that we have that we might take for granted, a roof over our heads, enough food on the table, the ability to tackle complex problems, the friendship of somebody near or far. It's a quality of living, is the way I would call it, not just a state of mind, because things fluctuate. They come and go. A quality of gratitude is saying, like, every day, every moment, like for clean air, the ability to walk, to run, to see, to hear. Knowing that, again, those gifts that come in from someone, the Creator, another person, but also the gratitude then turns back and gives to the other, to God, saying thank you. And it's a certain amount of humility to be able to say thank you when somebody pulls you out of the pit of depression. A doctor or dentist fixes a tooth that's been hurting forever. A teacher who helps you understand a deeper problem in math or in literature or physics. A coach who helps somebody run faster or throw the shot put farther, things like that.
So does it necessarily have to be something that is directly affecting you, or can it be affecting a wider breadth of people? For example, I don't very much like the winter. And at the time of recording, we are dealing with some bitter cold here and some fairly deep snow. But I am grateful for this because I know that this bitter winter will yield to a far more even spring and summer, hopefully. So that even in the depths of suffering, if you will, I am grateful for the fact that it will make the future a little bit less unlivable, I suppose.
It's sensing and understanding and acknowledging that we are interdependent. So that even though I'm feeling cold right now, the snow might be a bit much to shovel. I know it's also going to renew the earth. It's going to bring water in the summertime. The people who plow the streets, I'm grateful for that. It reinforces, makes real interdependence, that I am not an island by myself, that I didn't pull myself up by my own bootstraps.
Which sin then stands opposed to gratitude?
Envy. And envy is different than jealousy. Envy says, I want that. I deserve that. I'm entitled to that. Give me that. Why is that person smarter than me? That makes me mad. That's not fair. And envy is then saying, I'm not thankful for the different people, the different gifts, the different ways that the Creator, God, has made my world, our world. Envy is, I want that so badly, I might go out and destroy that person because that they make me mad. It's that caving in to oneself. I want, I need, I'm better. The deadly sins always, it's like the mirror, inward, inward, inward. The heavenly virtues are outward. And it's always Christ and the Gospels and the saints, the ones whose shoulders we stand on, pulling us to our better self.
And to, like you said, not act with a sense of entitlement, but with a sense of, I'm grateful for what I have. Mm-hmm. And I'm not necessarily looking over the fence at the Joneses and making myself sick to my stomach because I don't have the newest grill or the nicest deck or something along those lines.
Envy is saying, how dare they? I'm better than them, so I'm going to try to find a way to hurt them. The context is always in the deadly sins is me, me, me.
So we have to temper our desires in that particular case, and I don't mean to make a pun, but that's the one that we're moving on to is temperance. Now, you had the temperance movement in the late 1800s, early 1900s that was targeted specifically at alcohol, but temperance applies to a bit more than that.
Temperance can be food or drink. Temperance is saying a certain amount is necessary for life, whether it be food or drink or joy or playtime. The temperance movement was kind of a sobriety movement. And sobriety is not just about alcohol, but in many of the other aspects of our life that we're called to be temperate, moderation in all things, including moderation. But moderation reminds us that the gifts of the earth, the gifts of people are limited, and that the earth can feed all 7-8 billion of us if we are temperate in our use of food and resources. But if we're going to start over demanding resources from other countries, per se, the amount of food that industrialized countries throw away, for whatever reason, it's not perfect, it doesn't look perfect, it was on the shelf too long, etc., etc. But temperance can be not just in food and drink, but the time that we spend at work. If somebody, instead of just putting in the 8 hours a day, is putting in 10 or 12 and taking time away from their family or friends even, we are limited people living in a limited biosphere, yet we have an unlimited God. And it's a reminder to us that our moderate and judicious use of resources allows others to live.
But it seems to me, too, that in a lot of ways this overusage of things can also be directly harmful to us as well. You know, having a drink or two from time to time isn't necessarily that big of a deal. But being a heavy drinker might lead to liver disease or even death. If somebody we all enjoy food to a certain degree, and eating, of course, is necessary for survival, but an over consumption of food can lead to a whole array of health problems. And so even though it's something, obviously, that we're thinking external of ourselves, it's something that benefits us directly as well.
Overuse can limit our life expectancy, but we have to remember that we are interdependent people. And if the chief money earner for a family doesn't take care of himself or herself, the family suffers. If a leader of a government or a leader of a business doesn't take care of themselves, their leadership qualities, if they have a health issue, will affect the government, the people, and the economy. the moderation is reminding us that we are limited human beings living in a limited physical world, but yet we have an unlimited God, a God who has called us and given us resources and then the ability to use them wisely.
And the opposite of using those resources wisely would be gluttony.
Correct. We like to focus mainly upon food and drink. But I think there's gluttony of any kind of resource, accumulation of things. So, like with greed, I want more, I need more. And again, the focus of gluttony is not on the wise and judicious use of resources, but it's on the overabundance. I need more food. I need more time. I need more cars. I want more houses. I want more money. Both the heavenly virtues and the deadly sins, we need to look at them in a bigger context. The heavenly virtues, looking at it through the lens of the gospel and who Jesus calls us to be, how he lived his life. He was temperate in many things. He didn't accumulate a lot of things. He didn't just accumulate disciples. Disciples chose following and hearing him. They chose to change their life. The early church, talks about in the Acts of the Apostles how they lived as one community. Whoever had land, they sold it, and possessions, they put them into a common place so that all had what they needed. And especially the early church was a lot of people who were pretty desperately poor. And so by the sharing of resources, they were able to, everyone had enough food to eat and had a place to live, roof over their head, as it were. And most likely they also had some occupation, which contributed to the prosperity of the whole community.
And so if one person were to consume more of those resources than they needed to, it would end up harming the whole community. And so temperance was the ability to say, it may be available, but let's make sure we only take as much as we need.
Yes. It's almost in contradiction to kind of a capitalistic system. Take whatever you want. Take whatever you can grab and feel no reluctance. That is not looking through the lens of Christ. Rather, looking through the lens of Christ says, yes, there is quite a bit of resources available. How will we use them? If we always use the first person singular, I, me, instead of we, then we're losing sight of the context of our Christian faith.
And speaking of looking through life, looking at our faith through the lens of Jesus, I'm not sure if there were a whole lot of people in the whole of the Bible that practiced as much patience as Jesus did with the various people who he encountered. Why do we call patience a virtue?
It pulls us into acceptance and interdependence. Acceptance that the other is not me, doesn't have the same likes and dislikes, the loves and passions that I have. We're not compromising our faith, but we're saying that maybe that person is still grasping what it means to follow Jesus. Maybe they are struggling with a mental, physical illness. And that by being patient, it's recognizing that they're on a journey and I'm on a journey, and that we're interdependent. So being patient, patience with others, patience with God even, it means that we're interdependent and that things, events, people change over time. It's not now, but it's in the appropriate time, in God's time, things will happen. It doesn't mean that we just wait for them to fall out of the sky, but it means that, like with the birth of a child, 38, 40 weeks from conception until birth. It means it takes time for a young person in school to start to grasp concepts, to be able to understand mathematics, physics, poetry, literature. It's that repetition. So it's like a good teacher knows that his or her students will not get things on the first time. There's a funny commercial where a teacher in a college is teaching calculus to the students, and in about 10 seconds he has everything on the board, and then he pulls down another thing from the top there, and the students are like wide-eyed, like, what happened? Patience understands that as physical beings, we move, we grow, we sometimes regress, but it takes time for us to learn about God, and some people learn it faster than others, and that there will be people who don't always appreciate our faith, who don't understand our hope, and don't accept our love. And we say, well, maybe in time they will change. Maybe they will grow, but they're still my brother, my sister in the Lord, in creation.
Would you say that patience is also related to the Ignatian concept of indifference?
In a way, the Ignatian concept of indifference is when a person has a choice and they are trying to decide two paths of vocation or two methods for doing something. The Ignatian indifference is about choosing where God is speaking and calling that individual to grow and to become perhaps their better self. Patience is an internal quality of the person in relation to other people, especially to other people, but to other events. The psalmist talks about the farmer waits for the rains, the warmth, so that the soil will then allow the seed that has been planted to grow. And that's patience. You don't put a seed in the ground and tomorrow you have a wheat stalk. It takes time. But especially patience with other people, with yourself, because we're always on this journey. We're always growing. And then patience with God. That God sometimes is going to say, it's going to take some time for you to be a better person. But you're going to keep working at it, keep growing, keep discerning. So the Ignatian indifference is finding where God is calling a choice. And patience is kind of a more general quality.
Why then do we say that wrath is the sin that's associated on the other side with patience?
Because we want people to change now. We being limited people, wrath, anger, ire can show up so easily. Why doesn't he do what I want him to do? You know, we're driving a car and somebody turns in front of us. We can have wrath at that person because you could have hurt me. You could have hurt the person in my car. You could have hurt yourself, and just hold the anger about that. Or you could say, okay, that was a pretty dumb thing to do. Maybe they're trying to get home because there's something terrible happening at home. There could be something that we don't know about in his or her life that caused them to do such a stupid thing, a dangerous thing. The quality of patience says, okay, I don't agree with it, but I still will forgive. I still will not chase the person down and have a road rage incident or something like that.
The example that you gave of like the teacher being patient with their students and their kind of growing process, the other side of that, the wrathful side of that, would be a teacher who becomes very angry or frustrated with their students if they're not learning at the pace that they think they should be.
We've all had these teachers who expect that, I teach you once and you should know it right away. But sometimes some teachers are under a certain expectation from administration. You have to get through that entire math book. You have to get through that literature book. A coach has to have a winning team, and so he's going to push his or her athletes really hard. Patience is saying everyone progresses at a certain speed, a certain time. There are some people who will take advantage of that, of course. And it happens whether young or old, that people know if they can take the shortcut, sometimes they will. And you're being patient knowing that God's going to work with that person and that you might have a limited interaction with the person. But anger, again, it's inward. It focuses you back on yourself. Why didn't you do what I told you to do? Why can't you learn faster?
You endangered me.
You endangered me, yeah. Instead of saying, you could have hurt others. Don't you understand your interdependence? Patience, like the other heavenly virtues, stresses an interdependence on God and people. That we're all in this together. But the deadly sins just say me, me, me.
And when we're talking about how people might take advantage of our patience because of, who they are or whatever state they are in of selfishness, that's true of any of these virtues as we look at them. People may and probably will take advantage or attempt to take advantage of a virtuous person. What are we supposed to do in that situation?
St. Teresa of Calcutta talked about how people will do the wrong things and bad things. And she says, love them anyway. Love, again, is a quality of your intellect, emotion, experiences, and Christ sending the Spirit upon you to make wise choices or reactions to others. Actions can be wrong. Actions can be harmful. It's what was the intent behind the action, the words. Patience says, I want to learn more about what went into that person cutting in front of me on the road, or that person who will not learn even when I've spent all this extra time with them in the classroom. This person who says that they are a Christian and then they go out and do something very unchristian-like. And you go, where God do you need me to be? Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. Well, our last one on here is diligence, which people may misinterpret as simply being you got to be a busybody all the time.
Diligence is focus. It's staying focused upon who you are and who you have discerned God calling you to be. It means that the journey is a daily one with others, with Christ, towards the kingdom. That you keep seeing the roadsides for the kingdom, and the kingdom is not just the place, but it's the internal qualities of a person that when you get to that place, you will exhibit. The heavenly virtues, humility, charity, chastity, gratitude, temperance, patience. And diligence means that you're not waiting for God to do it, that you are working with God and with others to do it.
So on the other side of things, sloth doesn't just mean laziness after a fashion.
It's that self-referential me, me, me. I don't have to do anything to achieve salvation. God's going to do it all, and I'll just have a fun damn time here on earth. I will abuse people and expect that then God's just going to say, come on aboard to heaven. We can sometimes want to make sloth into, slow moving or not moving at all, like either a snail or like the animal called a sloth that moves so slow. Again, it's me, me, me. The deadly sins say, I'm walling myself away from God and from others except as I want to use them. So sloth is kind of like a quality of laziness, if you want to say that. It's not being lazy per se, but it's saying, oh, I don't have to do anything. God's going to figure it all out. I don't have to try. I'll just be who I want to be. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to be me, me, me.
So if we say that diligence is attempting to kind of strive for these virtues and strive to be a better person, then sloth could also be a complete neglect of these virtues.
Yeah, or turning the virtues into a sin, being patient. Well, I will only be patient with those people I like, and I will not be patient with other people.
Or I'll be patient until I get what I want.
Yeah. Diligence says the journey doesn't stop. Sometimes it speeds up. We get into a little fervorino about our faith, about practicing our faith. And then we kind of get into a long stretch of just plodding, but always going forward. Many of the saints in their writings had an initial fervorino. God just blew them over with an apparition, a message, and then they went for years without any external communication with God. The diligence was they stayed with it. They knew that God would, in time, with God's patience, be able to speak again, to communicate again, to touch one of the senses and let them know how deeply loved they are, that they won't have to rest on that initial experience. There'll be something else coming along.
So, my patient teacher, if I am to understand kind of a summary so far of what we're talking about, the virtues are speaking about external qualities that acknowledge our interconnectedness and our necessity of being kind and generous and loving to one another, whereas these deadly sins are focused around selfishness. They're focused around not just selfishness, but selfishness that is impactful, completely detrimental to those around us. Have I learned accordingly?
I think so. The heavenly virtues are not just an external, they're also an internal quality. It's something that we have learned, been maybe infused with, learned by example from others as teachers, parents, friends, heroes. And the deadly sins are kind of almost like specific acts that wall us off from others. We're saying, I don't need God, I don't want God, I don't need others except as they enrich me. They'll become my playthings, as it were. So yeah, that would, you pretty well encapsulated things.
All right. Well, I will try to be diligent in continuing to study. But thank you so much for coming on today, Father. This has been enlightening.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Nicholas.
Thank you for being with us today as we walk as pilgrims this road together. If you feel called to learn more, please consider checking out St. Francis Xavier or your local Catholic church. All are welcome into our community as God loves us all equally. If you are interested in supporting the Vox SFX podcast, please visit sfxmissoula.org/donate. Until next time, go forth in peace and be the light of Christ in someone's day.
By Jove, we've got it.